It's nice to see so many of our residents attending this evening, so if any of you've got any problem whatsoever hearing us, please don't be shy shouting and we'll address that as best we can. So, my name's Councillor Sandra Turner and I'll be chairing this meeting this evening. So the notice of the meeting, public notice of the meeting is given in accordance with Schedule 12, paragraph 10, little 2 of the Local Government Act 1972. Agenda item number 1, apologies. If we could receive apologies for inability to attend, please, Adam.
Yeah, we've had apologies from Councillor Barnett, from Councillor Dalrymple and from Councillor Wilde. And we also understand Councillor Austin is unavailable for this meeting as well. And we have 2 nominated substitutes present. Sorry, 1 nominated substitute, who's Councillor Reid.
Yeah. Would members like to move that we accept the apologies? All in favour of that? Thank you. Declarations of interest to declare any disclosure. I'm not going to read that because I'm struggling here with my voice, so if everybody can just read that. Could we have any declarations of interest, please? No? Thank you. And agenda item number 3, public participation. Do we have any members of the public who would like to speak? Right, Mr. Ward, if you'd like to join us.
Thank you. I'll stand if you don't mind,
Okay.
Chair. I hope you'll forgive me if I address you on a personal note. I think everybody knows that I'm not in good health. I can't really appreciate it as loudly as I would like to. I hope you kindly and with indulgence, don't mean to run over time, I'll be as quick as I can. I think it'd be helpful to introduce myself and to perhaps explain to some of the people who are not accustomed to coming to meetings what we're doing here this evening. And now I'll move on to my business with the council. I'll be as quick as I can, please stand by. So, good evening, Whitby. My name is Nigel Ward. I'm 77 and I've got 1.5 feet in the grave, but I love my town. I wasn't born here, but I've retired here. I spent my life in the music industry as a rock roller, as a studio engineer, an arranger, producer, commercial composer, much of my life in Europe, and I retired to Whitby in 2001. Having come here as a kid in 1958, having lived in Bridlington, past my 11 plus, and my parents rewarded me with a racing bicycle. And my chum and I decided that summer to spend the summer holidays touring the north of England. We got as far as Whitby, it was good enough, we stayed. So my investment in Whitby is 60-something years old now at this time. I'd like to just declare a sort of an interest insofar as our chair this evening, Councillor Turner, and I go back a long time. I think we can say we're friends, and I'm friends with Alf for 15 years, Councillor Abbott. More recently, I'm friends with Councillor Riddles and Councillor Lehman, so I'd like everybody to know that there's nothing I'm keeping back here. I want to be open and transparent, and these are people that I know and I enjoy working with. Now then, setting the budget, which is what we're here for this evening, is the meeting of the Finance, Policy and General Purposes Committee. And the purpose of this meeting is an annual event in which this committee directs itself to the prepared draft budget with a view to the fact that in January this will come before full council and it will set the budget including the precept, which is the local council tax, which is that part of the council tax bill that finances in part Whitby Town Council. And because I'm a doddering old son, so I brought a couple of props on to remind myself what the hell I'm talking about. This is a mop, a dish mop. This is to remind me that MOP stands for Member of the Public. We're all members of the public here tonight, including the councillors and including our wonderful new clerk, Mr. Chud, because we all have a life outside of council. Good evening. And in our home lives, we do the dishes, we clean the house, we mow the lawn, we paint the fence, we wash the car, we bring up our kids, we develop a career or a business, and we go old and we retire. And we're members of the public. And every one of us has a voice. That voice is enshrined in the law. The Human Rights Act of 1998, Article 10, says that everybody has the right to form an opinion and to express that opinion without fear of authority. You can say what you think. It's a qualified right. You can't defame people or libel them or threaten them. But within the rest of the law, the body of the law, you may have an opinion and you may express it. That's the MOPS. I'm a MOP. Now then, this is a formal meeting. It's a formal meeting of a local government body, which is also enshrined in law. This council was established under the Local Government Act of 1972, which came into force on the 1st of April 74. And this council is a body of government, and its activities are regulated in high degree under Schedule 12, Part 2 of the Local Government Act. And this book is to remind me what that's all about. This is Charles Arnold Baker's Local Council Administration, and it stands in relation to the Local Government Act in a similar way to the Highway Code stands in relation to the Road Traffic Act. It's a guidebook to say how the council is supposed to conduct its affairs. And it's rigorous. It says it must do it like this, not if it feels like it, it must do it like this. So there's my props. And these are the two things I want to talk about. I'm on to the business, I won't be very long.
I was going to say, Mr. Ward, I'm being really lenient, but
I know
we do
you
have
are.
a lot of things.
2 minutes.
Come on.
Yes. So, we're moving out to the committee. The committee also has, every one of them has a voice, just as we members of the public have a voice. But they only have a voice to a point too, because when that voice has been expressed and everybody has debated, we come to the vote. And when they vote, that body of different voices resolves to a single voice. It's the resolution, the decision of the committee. So I'm not here tonight to talk about individual members who have changed over the years. I'm talking about the activities of the committee, a single voice. And I look back, and quick as I can, sir, I look back over the last 4 years. I asked Mr. Jefferson here to do a back of the fact packet calculation. How much money has come into the council since the beginning of lockdown, for argument's sake? And he tells me it's very close to £2 million smackers, £2 million. It doesn't sound much if you say it quickly, but actually, maybe you don't know that in Whitby the average salary, gross, is £20,000 a year just my coffee bill. It takes you 10 years to assemble £200,000. It takes you a century to assemble £2 million. A century, right? And it comes down to decisions. A one-voice decision. And the decision tonight is about setting budgets and setting increases. And I say to you that without pointing any fingers, this committee, it has to be said in the most diplomatic language, it would be hard to say it has done an exemplary job. It would be more realistic. I'm still speaking to you.
I can hear you.
It would be more realistic to say that actually it hadn't done very well. And if I were to use the language of my cultural heritage, as a 15-year-old school leaver from a working class family, I'd say it's piss poor, really. It's not been good. So,
I think, Mr. Ward, I think, Mr. Ward, I've given you a lot of leeway here, you've gone way above
I've
this.
finished.
But I do think when it comes personal to...
I'm not talking about people, I'm talking about the
I appreciate you
committee.
saying the committee, but...
One last thing, please, one last thing.
Very last thing.
Very last thing. I believe the time has come for this committee to be vacated. I think it's time for some new blood. I think it's time for us repopulating. New people, new ideas, new dynamic, new ethic, and a new clerk who I'm very convinced is going to commit 10 years of the rest of his professional career to making this council what I want it to be, the best town council in North Yorkshire.
Right,
Thank you,
Mr.
Madam
Ward,
Chair.
thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have any other members of the public?
Yeah.
I am going to be stricter
I
on the
will
time
be very
because
quick.
otherwise
I will
we'll
be
never
very
get out
quick,
of
right.
here tomorrow.
I've come to a lot of meetings over the years and I've spoken to a lot of councillors,
And in the past, I supported this council years ago, letters in the Gazette, internet, everything. But my grouch is, you can only pay so much, and the budget going up here, every little penny counts for a lot of people now. And to put it up again and see no return, that's the biggest issue. Now, I've been on at the council at meetings about finding out how much money has gone on what my nickname, Skimmers and Scammers, with these three projects in the town, as you all know, I've spoken about this before. How much has actually gone on the consultation, and not a thing has actually happened. Now, and I've been badgering the council about the state of the pavements, the harbour and everything. Last week, I was in town, and that hole I've been on about for months and months on New Quay Road, bloody great, sorry for swearing, gaping hole in the road. Do you know what I did? I went to the harbour office myself, and I got reported it there. Now, they've stuck a cone on there. Now, all that money that's been spent on the Skimmers and Scammers, the consultation, evenings down at the Coliseum, all the nice drawings, the nice pictures they've done, plans, 6 people, I believe it was, in the Coliseum early on in the year. All that money's been spent, it's gone out of town, but nothing's been done. And it's just having some return for your money that's you're paying in.
I was frustrated as
Yeah, and it's
actually with yours.
And to be honest, it's up to council to be fighting those problems.
Yeah.
And that's what we want you to do. And that's all I'm going to say.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak before we move further through agenda items? No? Thank you for our speakers. Moving on to agenda item number 4, the minutes of the meeting held on the 8th of October 2024. That's to approve the minutes of the last meeting. Do we have any comments, any matters arising? Do we have a council who move those minutes? Thank you, Councillor Knott. Have we got a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Abbott. All in favour? Thank you. Agenda item number 5, any action outstanding from previous meetings. We'll have a further update. I don't believe there's anything, but I'll move over to you.
No, thank you, Chair. I believe most of the items are actually on the agenda this evening, so we'll take it from the reports on the agenda this evening. Thank you.
And members are happy with that response. Any questions to the clerk? No. Moving on to agenda item number 6, the utility contracts. You have got a report there for a recommendation in the gas and electricity supply. So again, any councillors got any comments or questions? No? Are we all happy with the recommendation to go with the contract that's on the table? Can you move that? All in favour?
Can I just ask who the companies are that we're going to be dealing with?
In terms, well, because this meeting is a public meeting,
Right.
our commercial confidence requires me to just anonymise it.
Yes, that's okay.
I preferred that public transparency to doing this as an exempt item, so that's why you've got the information that you have.
Councillor Abbott, move that we accept that, and we've got a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Lynn. Can we all vote, please? All in favour, thank you very much. Agenda item number 7, Danfo. There is an update for our committee on Danfo. Personally, I don't think there's much news coming to the table from them. It certainly looks as no reflection whatsoever on what the officers have produced, but this is just the same, much the same as everything we get in response. But however, I'll hand over again to you, Adam, if you want to just update a little bit and let anyone out, in the...
Yeah, I mean, I think that what I would say is that clearly the council has concerns and they have been raised with Danfo, and you can see the responses within the report that you have in front of you. I completely recognise that many councillors will not be overwhelmed with joy at the report that they're receiving, because we're not getting the material changes we might wish to achieve. Having said that, this does set out the steps that are being taken, and I think once we have the more further information about panel gates and barriers, about income reductions, and also resolution of VAT matters together, the council will be in a clearer position to make decisions going forward. So this shows you how we're supporting the council to make some further decisions in the future, based upon where we've got to so far. But I recognise that there isn't a magic bullet here in terms of some dramatic improvement. That's not going to happen. Thank you, John.
Councillor Mark.
Yes, thank you, John. I must say it has taken months to get to the stage where we are. We seem to have been fighting Dunfer for a long, long time and making very, very little progress. I do understand, however, that a further report is coming to full council in January on Dunfer, which will contain even more information, we hope. But we still do not have defined exactly what shortcomings Dunfer are obliged to report to Whitby Town Council. By which I mean, Madam Chairman, if a piece of equipment that we own, like a card reader, fails, we should not have to wait 6 months for them to tell us. They should be testing this stuff on a daily basis when they go around, inspecting and cleaning and indeed checking that all the equipment works. We should be notified at the very longest on a weekly basis of stuff that doesn't work. Now, I'm given to understand that we had to wait several months before we knew that card readers and cash machines were not working. But I also understand that it is quite likely that Dunfer were not in fact in breach of their contract, because the contract is so worded that they were not obliged to do so. Now, we know it's a very poor contract. We also know that the contract was written by Dunfer and then agreed to by this council. Not Adam, not his predecessor, but his predecessor's predecessor, who was in the role at the time this contract was drawn up. It was ice-breaking ground for the local council. No one in North Yorkshire had ever taken on the responsibility of public conveniences, so it was very much a leap in the dark for us, and we had to be led, we were led, or we had to be led by Dunfer as to the best way forward. And it is only in recent times that we've come to the realisation that it is somewhat lacking. And I do hope, Chairman, that in the report in January we will have definitions of the shortcomings that we want Dunfer to report.
To the council, I think that one of the purposes for writing forward in the report is to help support that process. In terms of, so we're asking Dunfer in 2017, Dunfer committed to taking a number of steps during the life of the contract in terms of the care and improvements of the buildings. So we're asking for a report to show what they've done and what they haven't done. So then we can, to try and bring to the surface the sorts of things that you're raising now, Councillor. So that's one of the purposes for that item.
Okay. I do know that in the contract it said that Dunfer are required to do other things that may be required by the council, but that is a very vague catch-all phrase that frequently appears in SLA contracts. I'd like to think we can get them around the table and negotiate with them to specify what those things are after we've had the report in January. Is that likely?
I think that sounds, I think that does sound like a sensible way forward. And in terms of, it's to enable councillors to see how they would like to proceed and what negotiations we want to do with Dunfer moving forward. So I hear what you're saying.
Thank you. Thank you.
Councillor Cochran, then I'll come to Councillor.
Right, just very quickly, I was on the original committee that worked with Dunfer, and the contract was fabulous. I mean, they did spend a lot of money on the toilets on the east side in next to the Reef, which is Abbey Wharf now. But we were making So when did they say this contract was made? Was it 2017 when we started with them?
2017.
So are they talking about the original contract that we were with, that we signed up with them then?
Yes.
The only contract.
Right, so we're dealing with what we were dealing with back then when we started. So I cannot understand how, you know, we haven't been making the money that we were making. It was a wonderful thing, as you say, we were the first in North Yorkshire to do this sort of thing. And it was fabulous, but I don't know where it's gone wrong.
It's only because we've not lost it.
That's right, that's right.
It's highlighted the deficiencies in the contract, and there's lots of them.
Yeah,
There's lots of them.
we were on a par with, I think, Ambleside toilets. They had downfall, and they make a lot of money, and we were on a par with them. There was only
There's certainly questions that need answering.
yes.
Councillor Riddles. Councillor Lane, did you?
Off the cuff.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'll come to you.
I understand everything about the contracts. I mean, it is, I read it, I mean, it's ridiculous. But I'll just bring one point which I bring up monthly. Illicit toilets, the doors are wide open, locked, tied up, wide open for 18 months, I know. And I reported monthly, we've had frosts, they're not even shut, they're not locked like they should be. How do we get something simple like that not being done? If that is the case, we're not going to get anything else done, are we? If they can't even go down and lock the toilets up at night.
Have you had a response to any of the reporting from Councillor Riddles?
Yeah, we've had, as I said, we've talked about some of the address we've appointed, but the key, this is where item 4 comes in, to do a comprehensive report, you know, for what they have done and what they haven't done. And that's what we're
That's a basic
Yeah.
request, isn't it?
I mean, if we get a frost, pipes burst, what happens? We get young people going in there, something happens to them. This council is responsible, they'll get sued if those toilets aren't locked at night and something happens. So it's
fair
not
point,
about,
really.
and it's ridiculous.
Councillor Lane.
Can we confirm the contract that we have is the existing contract? There's been no variations on it since 2017.
In terms of an actual contract, that is the contract that we have. As councillors who were here in 2021 will be aware that there were discussions with them in 2021 about how the income was to be apportioned between parties, and the arrangements since then are based upon the motion that went through council in 2021, but there wasn't an amendment made to the contract at that point. I hope that helps to clarify.
There was discussions in 2019 about changing the contract.
Yeah.
The FP&GP meeting sent in September 2019 resolved to discuss the contract information be deferred to next ordinary meeting at a future date.
Okay.
No minutes of
That
that.
never happened, yeah. Okay.
Well, we don't know. It just disappeared.
All right.
It did so in November 21.
Yes.
A working party was set up.
Yes.
No, there was a report
Yes.
that you spoke of. That doesn't exist
Yes.
in the minutes.
Yes.
The working group report doesn't exist. We have no idea what happened.
Yeah. But there is the motion that was passed in November, December 2021.
Well, that's it. Where
That's all we have
there was no motion passed at that time.
in one of
There's
the...
reference to it.
Yeah.
To
There's...
say it will come, but nothing happened.
There's, oh, okay, I can find you a specific motion, but in terms of your question, again, this is why we've got some of the items within the report about the contract and the future workings of the contract, so we can clarify these arrangements going forward. But the answer to your question is there hasn't been a written amendment to the 2017 contract.
Okay, so this has, you say this 2021 arrangement was to alter the payments?
Was to see, was to give authority to some amendment to how the funds are distributed.
Can that be give them to council so we can see what we've
I
done.
can certainly, I'm
I'm
happy to circulate whatever I have. You know, but obviously, as I say, I'm sure as council understand, I started on the 1st of October 2024. This is all historic, so I'm doing, it's what I say, I've been through to find what I can, but I'm happy to circulate.
If you could do that to the whole committee.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, there are 4 members of this committee.
It doesn't.
Councillors, let's just say 4 members of this committee who have been here all the time. Do they have records in their emails of things?
I've never been on this committee.
Sorry?
I've never been on this committee.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying you don't. I said there are 4.
I'm just making
I think
That's fine, that's why I didn't mention names. I can mention names if you want me to, but I'll keep it there. But there are 4 members of this committee who have been on it since at least 2020. We've got all big
I think that we digressing a little. One thing we do, I'm going to bring in Councillor Abbott because he's patiently waiting and then we'll sum up.
Look, what I'm concerned with, Chair, is the counting up of the monies.
Yes.
And having spoken to people that deal with cash, a lot of cash, I even reviewed them. They, and even I as a member of the local charity fund, we deal with cash. But we always have somebody stuck with it to cover our backs. Make sure that a pound for you, pound for the box. There's none of this wrongful sharing out. But how does it work when the clerk has said that we've had to, or the company has faulty card readers, well, we can pick them up for under 20 quid off the internet. Replace card readers and they can come the next day. I'm not quite look at that. How is it that they can say that? And also, they say that we're £100,000 worth of stock for repairs in hand all the time. But it's not happening. But what really concerns me is about the monies. We don't have a say or see what the money's are. We don't. I'm sure Adam and his new travellers won't be going down there and watching a count a load of 50 pence and or 10 pence a day and all this. Coming back with a few bags of silver and putting it there and taking it to the bank. That won't happen. Because I don't think it do that. I think it all goes one way. Should be saying that.
We all share concerns around this table, without a doubt, but it is the responsibility of Danfo to collect the monies, isn't it? And unfortunately, that's where we are with this contract. I'm not going to verbalise what I think in this room, but I don't think it's a secret to anyone what we all do actually feel about this. I'm going to bring in Councillor Lane and then Councillor Coughlin, and then we'll round up on this one.
On the subject of the money, clause 9.8 of the Danfo contract allows the council to see all information related to Dodd's income. Has that ever been imposed on them? Have we ever gone to Danfo and said, let's have a look at the numbers, please?
The only thing I can say to you that when we've had meetings regarding Danfo before, we have requested that the clerk has gone back and asked for all that information to be brought to us.
Have we ever
I know that you like to see an email trail, and I'm not decrying that, but if we're in a committee meeting and you are having that discussion and you clarify and everybody goes with action points, you do pretty much think those action points are going to be followed. So, you know, there are areas where we all need to look at moving forward.
Surely you would have sent us a complimentary email saying these points have been agreed, please action. So we do not know, therefore we do not know if we have ever enforced clause 9.8 of the contract.
Well, I would certainly hope we have, but no, I haven't done it personally.
Well,
so
if
I
we
can't.
did, then
Well, one would expect there'll be a trail from the office, so yes, Adam will bring forward anything he can find.
I mean, I'm currently getting monthly information from them. I don't know how far that goes in historic time. All I would say is that in completely on the same page as all the councillors here, but we have raised in point 2 of the report two specific income blocks that we want historic information about. So we get more information about those.
Can we just, for the last 2 years,
Everything. Yeah.
we can do that's all we can do.
That's fair. If everybody's in agreement with that, then I'm going to bring in Councillor Coughlin because she's there. Then yourself, Councillor Lockman, I think we've given this quite a good airing and we've got quite a major item to move on to.
Yeah, I will declare that I have been on this committee since the beginning, as I said before. Danforth used to come every 3 months or so, and the managers came, the bosses came, and we got on really well with them. They physically were here, and we could talk to them about anything. We discussed monies, we knew exactly, or we thought we knew exactly what was coming in and what was going out and so on. And that was in the days when we were making a lot of money. I think, and I could be very wrong, but I think it was a change of management, and I think that's where things started to change. And they stopped coming to see us, they stopped coming to meetings. We had the odd Zoom meetings, but we haven't had contact with them that we used to have. I mean, we used to get awards. Best known in Britain and all that. Yes.
Councillor Lockman.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I think that there was a major change in the management structure at Danforth, and I think it was 2 years ago.
I think it's longer ago than that.
Well, I was going to say, don't hold me to it, but there certainly has been a major change.
Yeah.
As regards to the collection of cash, somebody has to trust somebody somewhere. Either we trust them, or they trust us. But whoever does it, that you have to have, at least as you rightly say, two people to do it. One to collect it, one at the back of the, if you like, riding shotgun. I do think that there was a point when Danforth only had to report back to this council on the monies that were taken, the costs that were deducted, and the sharing of the profit once every 6 months. That sticks in my mind for some reason.
Well, the contract is once a year on the anniversary. That's what the contract says.
Well, there you go. I thought it was once every 6 months.
Unless that's been one of the variations.
Well, it still isn't much better than
Well, I
once
think,
every year.
to be fair, councillors, I think we just need clarification exactly where we are. We're not happy. We know we're not happy. We've asked for lots of information, and a report will be coming back in January, yeah?
Yeah.
Is everybody happy? Well, we're not happy with it, but we have to move on.
Just out of interest, does North Council subsidise everyone else's toilets?
North Yorkshire Council?
Yes. Do they give money to other councils?
Not to my knowledge. Toilets are not a statutory provision, and it's always been a bone of contention with councils that, you know, they should be. We're a highly tourist area, but unfortunately they're not, so I wouldn't think that they subsidise anyone, but I don't know. Right.
Just a point of order, I think Blackie's actually put the motion in there for asking for certain information about.
I thought we'd agreed everybody was in. If you want to put it as a formal motion, Councillor Perman, if you'd like to do that.
In position of clause 9.8, can we please ask and vote for full accounting as per clause 9.8?
You mean the management report?
No, historical payments.
Oh, I see, right.
Have we got a seconder for that?
I'll second it.
And can we vote? All in favour?
We want to see the information.
So the motion that I think you just asked is to note the report and ask them for full information on the 9.8 of the contract.
As per clause 9.8 of the contract.
Historically.
Thank you. Everybody.
Yeah, for the last
2 years.
Yeah, 2 years.
Thank you. Right, we'll move on.
Can we vote on that?
Yeah, you did vote on it. Because you ran
We
this.
didn't, I'm sorry, we didn't vote. Can we vote?
Can you vote?
Excuse me.
In favour?
Sorry, who was that? Sorry, Jay, who was the second? Councillor Levin proposed that. Sorry, sorry, I missed that. Thank you.
Sorry, I rushed you through that. I saw your vote, so clearly you didn't cancel these. Apologies.
Accepted.
Good. Agenda item number 8, the budget preparation. This is the big one obviously this evening, and it is of great concern to us all. I'm going to hand over to Adam to speak to this, and then we'll have questions and comments.
Okay, so I've only got 2 points to make, hoping you've read the report. One is to say that in terms of structure of this section I've discussed with the Chair, I'd like to start with any questions that you have. So if anything in the 4 pages of tables you want to ask a question about, then please let's do that first. And then when we've done all the questions and clarifications, then we can go on to discussing it. Then we'll go backwards and forwards between those two parts. And the second point to make is that it's definitely, I definitely want to give you all the help I can, because it's quite a challenging budget to set. As councillors will be aware, the level of reserves for this council is below what it should be, what our auditors recommend, and what our national body guidance says it should be. So in the light of that, it would be hard to set a budget that does not increase the reserves. And therefore it would be hard to set a budget that therefore does not, of necessity therefore, also increase the precept. Because we are under very strong guidance recommendation to increase the reserves. And the approach I've taken within this budget, which I hope I made clear in the report, but I'm happy to clarify now, is that the increase in expenditure in this budget is £102,000. £100,000 and £102,000 is increasing reserves. 2,000 of it is not. 2,000 is below inflation increases across the council expenditure at the moment. I hope I've helped to clarify that. Happy to take any queries, and then obviously please discuss.
Councillor Riddle's really vindicated.
Right. Danco, I meant to,
We talked about
the community donation,
yes.
Which was agreed, which is basically all the extra cash that is put in the cash machine that we don't give as change.
Yes.
It's meant to go into a community donation thing, which was meant to pay for the banana bridge. Yeah, we've got £6,000 here paid by the town council for that bridge.
Yes.
Why aren't Danco paying us as they have agreed to do?
Danco agreed to provide us with a charity donation. They haven't, and then we've chosen to spend that on the bridge.
Yeah.
It's not Danco paying for it. I mean, we're paying for the bridge and we've chosen to use those donations.
So why isn't there in our account a figure of £6,000 given from Danco to the council? We got £580 last year from Danco.
Well, sorry, Adam.
No, that's fine. So I put £6,000 in this budget for next year.
Yeah. So, but that should be cancelled out by 6,000 from Danco. And they should be taken, not only should that actually be taken from the initial, before Danco to any accounts, that money is not their money. It's the people's money. It's put into a community fund. So that £6,000 should be taken off before they start doing their accounts, because it isn't their money. It isn't our
Well,
money.
the community fund is only where there's a surplus of the money. If hypothetically, it used to be 40p for the toilets.
Yes.
So if somebody paid the 50p, there was 10p carrying over.
Yes.
Unfortunately, at last year's budget, we had to put the toilets up, which none of us wanted to do, but it went up to 50p.
Yes.
So that 50p now, usually people have got a 50p. As I understand it, if there's no surplus in that income, there's no community deposit. So we as a council made the decision that any monies that were surplus to the overpayment of someone using the toilets, we would use that money towards paying for the bridge. It was never deemed, oh, we'll definitely get £6,000 from that. Whatever monies came off that, we would put it towards paying for the bridge, which is another issue altogether for this.
So how would you calculate that money? Because nobody knows, it's the guesswork. It was agreed that 6,000 was a good figure and they would give it.
Well, Scarborough Council put that figure on how much would be paid back.
No, that's completely different. That is completely a different matter that we will ask to pay £6,000 a year. I'm saying, how does everybody know how much extra money is being put in those machines? We don't know. it was agreed that 6,000 seemed a good thing, and Danford agreed to use that money from the community fund for that £6,000 for the bridge.
Yeah,
That was what was agreed.
so I'm trying to help council with it, but in terms of, so part of the reporting from Danford is to show the community donation amount. And based upon their reporting over the last year or so, £6,000 is not an unreasonable figure for them now, so that's why £6,000 has been put in. So it's based upon information from Danford for this financial year.
So where did that 6,000? Have they given us £6,000?
They're going to, we haven't claimed it. We have to then claim it, but obviously we'll do that on the due date.
But in previous accounts, we have seen that they have given us money, and it's
Yes.
going to this. But I think last year, the year before, it was only £580.
I don't know what happened in previous years, but they're showing amounts this year that would enable some for 7,000 to be contributed upon.
Councillor Markey wanted to.
Yes, thanks, John. The £6,000 that is paid for the banana bridges is an obligation that we have. And that was set up between us and Scarborough Council. It was agreed at some point between 2017 and a later date that £6,000 would be found from our share of the profits from the toilets after the expenses had been paid. And the profits then were split 50-50. They should have been split 51-49, but they were then split 50-50. And from that half share, we would pay £6,000 to the bridge. That is the arrangement this council had.
Councillor Lynn.
I'm sorry, but you are splitting profits between whom? The profits from the toilets?
Yes, after all expenses had been paid,
Right.
there was a profit which was split 50-50 between Danfo and this council.
Well, their contract is a contract sum. They get paid handsomely for that. But the contract states that they get all the money each year, they take their contract sum, which is fixed, well not just fixed, but index linked.
Yes.
All the rest comes to the council.
No, it doesn't.
That's what the contract says. The contract does not allow for splitting anything. What's left is the council. It's not then split 50-50 with anybody.
My understanding of the historic agreement is as I just said.
Well,
Can I,
the contract is clear.
Well, I'm happy to be wrong.
Could I ask you, if the clerk can clarify, I appreciate your overview with this, Alan, but
No,
is
it's
there
fine.
anything that you can
I think
clarify?
all the contributions are actually really helpful because they help to sort of show the situation. We're clear about how to pay for the bridge. We're clear that the council's intentions was to fund that from Danto revenue, whether it's community donation or from the actual people going in the toilets in the first place. So that's all clear. The custom and practice with Danto of recent years has been for there to be this 50-50 split. That's been going on for some
That's the
time.
variation of the contract.
That's for some time that's been the custom and practice.
If I may quote the contract here.
Yeah, no, but Councillor Levin, I completely hear you and get your point. So it's probably, I don't want to do this as speculation in a public meeting. That's not appropriate. But I see the contract that you see. I see the arrangements from the contracts at the beginning, and I see from a point of 3 or 4 years ago, I think, something like that, a 50-50 split of the profits. So that's been going on since 2021, I believe, although I probably have to check the exact date, at least 2021. So that's the customer practice that I've inherited, and as Scott, obviously I have to follow that customer practice. Nothing else.
Hang on.
The contract clearly says that Danfo get all the money. Firstly, the council hereby assigns to Danfo all the rights, title and interest in the convenience income which shall be applied by Danfo as follows. Firstly, towards payments of the fee due and payable to Danfo during each year of the term of the contract commencing on the commencement date, which is the 1st of July, and ending on each anniversary thereof. Secondly, on each anniversary of the commencement date, the payment of any surplus in excess of the fee to the council. No splitting.
Yeah,
No splitting at
I don't
all.
disagree.
So if it's selling splitting, that's a variation of the contract which you're not aware of. You're saying there is no written variation.
Well, there is no written variation.
Well then, can I just bring this back a little bit, councillors? There's obviously some issue here.
That's a serious issue.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree with you anymore. This is an area, if councillors are agreeing with me, that we need absolute verification on when we get this report back to us in January. Because if that's the case, and there hasn't been a variation to this contract over the years, then we need to seriously address what's going on here. And we'll take that on. And members happy for us to do that.
We won't need to, there's our reserves.
Well, I agree. Are we happy with that?
Can
Adam.
I just make 2 points from Adam, which I think would help you?
Right.
One, I would suspect that what's just been discussed is this group of councillors from this committee had this meeting that never took place, that we don't know until 2021, and perhaps in this meeting it was never reported about, it was agreed to split this at 50-50, but as it's not contract or anything, then it's a gentleman's agreement which no one knows about.
I can absolutely assure you, Councillor Riddles, that nothing in any meeting I've sat in on anything in shape or time obviously must have been because there's no way.
2021.
And secondly,
However,
secondly,
quickly second point, because there's a lot to
you
discuss.
said it was the 6,000 was either from the profits or from the community fund.
Yeah.
It can be one or the other, it cannot be both.
Well, it could be one or the other, absolutely, but...
Well, we need to know which it is.
Well,
We're going to get that.
We're going to get that clarification, absolutely.
okay, the greatest of respect, this budget shows 2 income lines from Danfo and shows a commitment to pay the 6,000 for the bridge. So in terms of the bridge payment, we, as the councils have described, historically, there's an understanding that the council was going to use toilet revenue to pay for the bridge, and that's what we're doing. I haven't specified within the budget which one of the 2 it is. I don't think it's been specified necessarily historically. In terms, I'm not trying to set any hairs running in this meeting. All I'm doing is reporting back on what I've found factually. So what I found factually is the 2017 contract with no amendments to it, and then a change to the payment arrangements in around 2021, and a motion of either committee or council, I can't remember off the top of my head, that refers to potential changes of arrangements.
But not for details.
Those are the 3 things that I have found. I wasn't here for any of this.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? So, but obviously I can surmise that as the custom and practice for the division goes back for several years, that was an understanding between the parties. That's not a new arrangement. It's an old arrangement. It's been going on for a number of years.
It's undocumented.
I don't know if it is undocumented.
We've got to find this out,
I'm
and
just,
then we can go
I'm-
forward.
It's certainly not in the
But
minutes.
in terms of, and obviously I'll see if there's any further documents that can help this. As I said, it's interesting starting a job in 2024 and spending most of my time before 2024. But I'm trying to be as helpful to council as I can in terms of the current arrangement that goes on with Danfo is exactly how council not described it. And that's been going on for a number of years.
The working party came up with that idea, and there's nothing in the minutes about it.
It's got to be documentation for any decision that's
I
been
was going to
taken.
suggest, unfortunately, they're not here, the councillors aren't allowed to call on the working group of that committee.
Well,
So came up with that.
let's,
So they would be probably a good idea.
yeah, we'll look into that. Adam, I'm sure we'll go down every avenue we can so that we get the right outcome, and we're on that one. Councillor
Your paper.
Right. From between the end of the previous town clerk and our new town clerk, starting, we have to employ the services of a temporary town clerk who worked for us. Now that I'm obviously and settled in and whatnot, I believe we have this other town clerk working in the office since. Pardon?
Project officer.
Oh, she's a project officer, right. So we pay a fee and so on. Can you assure me that that now is no longer necessary and it won't happen again?
Yeah,
Because I think it's quite a sum of money.
the local arrangement is finishing this Thursday.
Right, and from now to Thursday, will she be back in the office or?
Well, there's what, in terms of the arrangements that were described to council at the previous meeting, there's one more day of that arrangement to go.
And then she's completely finished.
And that's the end of the
So we
arrangement.
don't need a temporary project officer anymore.
Well, I mean, that's another question, Councillor Coffin.
That's
In terms of the here and now position, there
Right,
won't be any more payments or arrangements after this Thursday.
right.
Right, so we're all happy with the word that we're moving forward. Are there any other questions on this proposed budget?
Well, yeah, yes.
Can we take turns, please? Councillor Nott, Councillor Wills, Councillor Lane. Councillor Nott.
Thank you, Chairman. First of all, let it be clear that the Council is not proposing a 31.6% increase in the precept as is reported in social media. The figure 31.6% is put in.
Councillors, can we keep it down so everybody can hear us?
The figure of 31.6% is put in because the clerk is obliged, by virtue of his role as the responsible financial officer, to present a budget that will meet the expenses of the council and provide a satisfactory level of reserves, which currently we do not have. Also remind council that last year we took out of the budget about £35,000 to pay for fees to the external auditor, which hopefully we know that was not spent, but maybe a carryover into the following year. Also beyond question is the fact that we need to increase reserves very significantly. I know there's criticism of the amount of money that this council receives compared with what the new Scarborough Town Council is going to receive. But I have regard for the fact that Scarborough Town Council does not have buildings like this to maintain. And I know that the Little Phil pay to us 60% of their admission fees, which is a significant part of the fixed income and is designed to pay for the maintenance of the building. In recent years, in a lot of recent years, 60% has been totally inadequate. In fact, last year, in January, at the budget meeting, we had a discussion on the cost, on the money required to fund what were considered to be urgent repairs and maintenance to this building, and it came to a total of £104,000, which in itself was significantly more than the 60% that we received. Also consider, if you will, that for a couple of years income was significantly reduced because of COVID, but the maintenance costs of the building remained very constant. That is, those are some of the reasons why we have to be looking at increases in the precept that would otherwise be unacceptable. I just want to make that clear. Thank you.
Councillor Wills.
Yes, I totally agree with what Councillor Nunn says, but I would think that having had the large increase we had last year, for whatever reason that was, we could put off putting money back in the reserves for 1 year, and therefore we could not have an increase in the precept. Because our standing with the community isn't that it's probably the lowest it's ever been, and I would suggest that actually that money that was going into the reserves needs to be put back in, but as I say, leave it down next year doing it. And if we could find a 5% reduction on last year's precept, it would go a long way to saying to the public, we're trying very hard to get ourselves in order and get some respect back from the community, that we might start then being able to go forward. And by doing that, we're also going to, North Yorkshire are going to look at us and maybe think that we're actually putting ourselves in order, and they might start looking at giving us things, extra things to do in the devolution things, and etc., which at the moment I don't think they've got any intention of doing. And so I suggest that we don't put this extra 100,000 into the budget this year, and we try and find a slight reduction in these figures. 6,000 for the bridge, for instance, because I think Danbury should be paying it. So I think there's ways of maybe getting a slight reduction, which I think the people want, and as one member of the public said, a penny's a penny now to a lot of people, and you know, we have to look at what the people, everyone is struggling at the moment. So, as I say, let's put that 100,000 off for the year.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. I think we need a substantial reduction in this increase, but
Councillor Mills on that one, to build the reserves up that much, that fast, is putting a strain on the precept. So, but as Adam says, we need to increase the reserves. So could it be a smaller amount and cross our fingers and hope that Danfo can start to pay a sensible amount?
I think
And
this
that
council,
can then be assigned to the service.
I think this council needs to look at the way it operates moving forward, without a doubt. I think we need to be looking at some revenue income streams rather than expenditure all the time.
Well,
I certainly
think
looking at the amount that Adam's highlighted for going into the reserves this year, which is 100,000, which is almost all of the increase here that brings up the 31.6%. If we were to either, and this is a decision for councillors, but if we were to either delay putting something in the reserves or extend it over a longer number of years so that the amount we're putting in is less, that obviously reduces the increase in the precept.
Yeah.
And I think that is the only sensible way to move forward. This council needs some reserves, but to smack the townspeople with 100,000 straight away isn't feasible. So I think we need to be looking at that monies that we need to have. We've had the advice from the external auditors that we must build up our reserves, but I think we need to take it at a much more measured approach. That will be.
Proposal?
I'll propose it from this. Yes, I will. But I would like some information on how many years we should be looking at. I'm thinking 3 or 4 years to pay this money back in. But I will hand over with councillor's agreement. I'm going to hand over to Adam to see what that would look like. And where would we be? I think we should be looking at below 10% increase on our precept. But again, I'm going to hand over to Adam to give us a little bit more. Sorry, Adam, you're going to earn your pennies here. Sorry, Councillor David. I'll let Councillor David just finish off. Sorry.
The allotments, we have an expenditure of £10,000 and an income of 2. Ouch.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. That is an ouch. Absolutely.
I don't know how much allotment is. I can't make, and what's our rate for allotment compared to surrounding parishes?
We can look at a lot of these.
National rate? I don't know.
I think it's a national rate.
Yeah, I don't know if there is a national rate, but obviously the idea of allotments is that it's supposed to be affordable. Its target audience is not people with loads of money because they're going to have gardens and stuff anyway. So you don't want to price it, but one of the challenges for our council, any town and parish council chair, excuse me, but through you, chair, any town or parish council, as Whitley Town Council is no different, has certain responsibilities it has to fulfil, and those responsibilities cost money to do, and the main source of revenue for them is the precept stroke council tax. So that's the world that we're in. We can choose not to spend 10,000 miles a month if we want to, but then you've got broken fences, or, flooded, lack of drainage, whatever. Lots of cells become unusable, you're breaking the contract. Expenditure is going to be beyond that, so your council is going to something. That's the world that you're in.
Yes, I appreciate that. So, I also understand there are a number of allotments that aren't used at the moment.
Well, that's another area where we need to look into and drill down, I believe, and that's a bigger discussion for outside this. Before I ask you to come in and respond to that, Adam, regarding the amount of time to build up the reserves, I'm going to bring Councillor Abbott in because he's indicated and he may have something to say that would be beneficial.
Just one or two points on, first of all, the Christmas lights.
Yes.
Now, it's a big contract,
Yes.
a long contract,
It has been a long contract.
and it's a very unfair contract.
Yes.
Simply because the lifetime of this council, 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
And if the councillors commit to a contract, should be only in their lifetime, because the next council that comes in shouldn't be burdened with the last council's issues. That's what it should be. We don't want somebody else's property. If the contractors that are now for that, that's fair.
Understand. You can certainly, sorry, you can certainly, through you, Chair, you can certainly, I would be recommending to council where it's necessary for example, commercial reasons or because of the nature of the work undertaken, that you have to have an arrangement of, say, longer than 3 years. Because sometimes people won't take on a financial risk to run something, for example, if they're not going to have it for a decent amount of time. But you can do contract arrangements that don't have to be a single period. So you have break clauses and review clauses within the contract. So you have reviews at least every 3 or 4 years, so you're not just stuck with it. And I hear that loud and clear in terms of these sorts of arrangements.
Yeah. And the other thing is, we've had a Christmas fair.
Yes.
50-50.
Yes.
50,000.
Yeah.
50,000.
Yeah.
I'm off on that. But my concern is, obviously, I bought it, it's 50,000, and it cost me 50,000. Obviously, that was looking at. But what has the council contributed into that? What's your time, the staff time, and the 3 days, who's paid for that?
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, that's, if you want to talk about full cost recovery, we can look at that. I mean, I think that the custom and practice with the Christmas Festival has been that in terms of the kind of gross costs, if you like, putting up the shed, having all the gazebos and the sheds, renting the space, all the lighting, all the staffing on the day, stewarding, etc., all the entertainment, all the acts, all of those things that you pay for to have a Christmas fair. The final accounts have been done so that then the people paying for the Christmas fair, which is primarily your stallholders who are selling there, and other people maybe making contributions as well, plus your contribution you're getting from North Yorkshire Council through Section 106 money, that income pays for those costs. I take your point completely, that meanwhile the council itself, as an entity, is also making the event happen, and that's held at the moment within our central costs, rather than shown against that. I hope that helps to clarify.
It clarifies, but it shouldn't be.
I hear you. I hear what you say.
But yeah, I would appreciate if you would look at that.
I'll see what I can do.
And come back to this committee and say, we would have to do it this way, because why should we pay for something else by other people in benefit?
I think the only point I would like to make on that one, Councillor Abbott, and I'm with you all the way, I've questioned costings and expenditures income on this. However, it's one of the few things this town council does provide for the townspeople, and it does, without any doubt, increase business to our local businesses. And, people do, they do love it, like it or not, but there are areas, everything needs to be looked at properly.
Yeah, I agree.
And I agree entirely with you on that one.
One of the issues that why it got brought to the head on that is I spoke to a shopkeeper on Chiller Street and said why I have the store. He said, why do we need a store or a shop?
Yeah.
That's the idea. You've got to go, he said, I've got to go down. He said, I might not sell something there, sell something here.
Yeah,
And that's what it's about.
that's fair comment. I'm going to bring Adam back in to
That's
speak
fine.
to what the situation would be with if we look at building our reserves over a longer period of time, if everybody's happy to listen to that.
really appreciate the questions, and I will obviously it's one of the purposes as councillors will know of having almost like this two-lap approach to the budget. We have FP and GP, and then you have full council. Is the full council report can be mindful of the feedback and questions from FP and GP in terms of providing the information that you need. So clearly the report to full council needs to say more about the reserves position, about the sorts of reserve increase we're going to need, and then different options around how to raise that money and over what period of time. And if this is too steep a slope, what a gentler slope looks like in effect. The position of the council is our turnover. This is slightly back of an envelope, if that's okay. But in terms of, I'm conscious of public meetings, so just a few caveats on what I say now. But roughly £500,000 turnover as an organisation. Okay. And our national body's recommended level of reserves is, well, they say 30 to 70%, but you definitely want to be in the at least 30 to 50%.
Yeah.
So that means you want your earmark reserves plus free reserves, and most of your free reserves really, to be in a figure of 30 to 50% of £500,000. Okay, so that's where the council needs to get to meet our governing body's recommendation. Okay. I've slightly paraphrased that, but sort of in terms of slightly simplified it perhaps a little bit, but it's in essence that's what it means. Okay. So if our reserves at the moment are, again, I'm going to say roughly for the purpose of this meeting, roughly earmarked and pre-reserves together, £70,000 maybe at the moment, something like that, £60,000–70,000, okay? And the minimum we're going to need is, 50% of £500,000 is £250,000, and then 30% of £500,000 is £150,000, okay? I can do maths in my head, that's good. So if we're working towards a minimum of 150,000, but ideally 250,000, and we're at 70 now, you can then see how many years we want to take to get to 150, 200, 200,000, which is what you need. Okay. This budget probably says about 2 years to do that. So maybe you want to do that over a longer period of time, for example. So I can show that in the full council report how we, the research figure we need to be working towards, and the range of that, and then what our options are about how we work towards that. But we can clearly see the fundamental point which our auditors have raised with us is that, for the turnover that we have, our level of reserves is too low.
What do we need? What's
the
70,000?
So as I said, we need...
Why do we need such big reserves?
Because that's a matter of financial prudence, which as any public body we need to show.
Yeah.
So I think that, so in other words, a public, what I would say to that, I completely understand your question, but I think as a public body, a town and parish council would normally look to follow the financial advice coming to it from, for example, the National Association of Local Councils, or the financial advice of its auditors. That's financial good sense and prudence to that. The public would not thank us for taking unnecessary risk, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Of course, it's completely up to the council what level of reserves it wants to take and what budget it wants to set. You have freedom to do that. What I'm explaining to you is what the advice from the bodies we normally listen to is saying, and therefore, like it or not, we're in a position where the reserves figure is below what they would advise it to be. And their advice to us would therefore to increase it. Fine, long answer now, Chair, sorry, but in terms of the final point, but in the meantime, in the sort of everyday world, well, look at what we're responsible for, and look at what some of those things can cost, and look at what costs we may incur in future years. This building is an example of that. So when you have major capital responsibilities or responsible things that cost a lot to fix, you need to have the funds available if you need to fix them. And so no one would thank us again for not having those funds available to us should they be called upon.
Councillor Mark.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I think one of the things we have to bear in mind is we have an ageing population in this town, and all those over 65 have had a significant reduction in their income through abolishment of the winter fuel allowance. I don't like the idea of people looking at each other and saying, God, I'm really cold again, because they never like it when look at the lovely Christmas lights. They won't keep them warm. If we decided, Madam Chairman, again, this is a bit of fact-packet management here, a bit of reduction in Christmas lights would cost of 20,000. Take out a devolution cost, reduce the earmarks, some earmarks for reserves by £45,000. Having regard for the income from North Yorkshire Council towards the Christmas lights, that would give us a figure to balance in the budget of 373,383. And on a tax base of 4972.1, that would give us a cash increase in the precept of £9.60 or 14.7%, which is rather more acceptable. May not be acceptable to everybody, but it is more acceptable. And as a rough guide, every reduction in reserves by £10,000 makes a reduction in the precept of as you were, £2 and a penny.
Yeah.
So big reduction in reserves, very little to show to the electorate. I think it's something that we should bear in mind.
Sorry, Councillor Williams, then
What
Councillor
really concerns me is, and it's not for this meeting, but a few of us have been doing quite a lot of research into the toilets, and the previous year, this council lost £60,000 on toilets, and it's all documented. Now, that is an astronomical amount of money, and why we let it happen, I don't know, but that's why we have to get this all running again. We were looking at £50,000 profit 3 or 4 years ago for the toilets, and we lost £60,000 last year.
I think with respect, Councillor Wills, we've really aimed the kind of focus.
No, but that affects, because if we get the toilets sorted out, then we will be getting...
It will give us a different...
Exactly.
Absolutely.
So I'm hoping that my idea, we were saying don't increase the reserve this year. I think that if we do, everyone pulls together and gets the toilets sorted out, we will actually be adding to reserves this year. So we would be anyway. But we have to get that problem sorted out. And it is a major problem.
Two things, very quick points. The Christmas lights, I believe, were due a new contract.
Correct.
There are cheaper companies around, and apparently the current company is charging us storage for their Christmas lights. They're charging Whitby Town Council storage, but the lights belong to them. I believe there isn't a proper plan in place, and the Christmas lights have been inferior for the last 2 or 3 years. Parts of the town don't have any at all. Newquay Road is abysmal. And it's definitely time to change contract and go with another company so that we have a proper plan, we know exactly where the lights are and we know the costs and so on. The Calabec one, when the tip, those of you can remember when the tip was there at the bottom of Calabec, when that closed, we had this lovely piece of land and we were going to rent out this car parking, and it was going to make us a lot of money. It didn't come to happen, it didn't come to fruition. There was something about the road end onto Church Street. It wasn't very good, and I think it was Yorkshire Council decided that it wasn't a very good idea to do that. But it's no different to any other road end town or anywhere else around here.
And he was only on the tip, sorry, Chair.
Yeah.
But the tip at that time was not for the county council, but they would not be, because they didn't have it, they wouldn't be objecting to it.
It's an area that we need to look into. We've got a piece of land down there, but the pure basic fact is if North Yorkshire Council don't give permission, it's an issue.
And I
And
think
it is
it's worth
something
a
that
try.
we have to look
It's
at.
worth a try again. It was going to be either annual parking permits for residents
Yeah.
wanting to park
We can
around,
put that.
you know, so it was a set income.
Right, I think we need to be moving on a little bit here, councillors. Adam's explained with relation to the reserves, so we know we need to build them up, but I would like to put forward a motion that we ask for the clerk to bring forward options over a number of years to build those reserves. So I would go as far as to say over the next 4 years and see what the option would be there with the increase in precept. Because obviously this is all going to full council. So, sorry, I'm going back to the motion. And include with that Councillor Knox financial workings there. So that's another option to come forward. It gives council something, meat on the bones to really go to in our next full council meeting. But without doubt, I think the options coming forward need to be looking at more of a 10% increase rather than 31.6. 10% or below, but we've got to be realistic, we've got to look at our reserves, and it would be very remiss of this council not to look to something going in there.
Okay, so I think...
If that motion makes sense.
Let me try this. So the motion is to note the report and ask the clerk to bring forward proposals showing options for how reserves may be increased over time. Include consideration of other points raised within the meeting and see how to reduce the proposed increase in precept.
Do we have a seconder for that? Councillor Robert, are we all in favour? Yeah. All in favour.
Thank you.
Thank you, councillors. I think we've gone really through that quite a lot, and hopefully we'll have something a little bit more definitive for the January meeting.
Yeah, please do. Please do send me anything else.
Thank you, councillors. Moving on to agenda item number 9, the approval of expenditure, and that's to approve payments to the 31st of October 2024.
I've got a list within the papers to show.
Have we all gone through that list?
I would say, Chair, that the list of regular suppliers could they be taking the money on some of these, and could we have a review on all our suppliers and see if we can get a better deal elsewhere, or pull them back a little bit and see too expensive where we make it realistic.
Are you moving that, councillor Abbott?
I'd like a review on the suppliers. Yeah, I would move that.
Do we have a seconder for that? Are we all in favour? You got that? So,
Chair,
moving
because
back.
about the chair say,
Sorry?
joint management committee, when have they proposed anything that's going to go onto the precept, i.e. shouldn't we really have a meeting with them before
we go back to the previous item.
I think
I was just looking
we
there.
are,
Well, no, I was
Councillor
looking there, you know.
it's been noted, but we have moved on to the approval of expenditure.
Well,
But your point is noted, please, it is. Adam?
Yes, I've got that, and I'm having to sort of answer and say we have done that.
We've moved on.
But through you, Chair, yes, there's a process by which the JMC feed into this project. Yes, those steps have been followed. Yes, those discussions have been happening. And essentially, the 2025-26 position is that there are some things to do around this building, and they're within this budget. There aren't any major items to do next year, but if there were to be major items, then the parties would look to see how to raise funds for them. That is the position. So JMC may not finish that process because they've still got another meeting in January, but I don't anticipate them derailing this process.
Okay. Can we move back to agenda item number 9? I still need approval of expenditure. Moved by Councillor Abbott, seconded.
Yeah.
Councillor Coughlin, sorry, Councillor. All in favour? Thank you. Agenda item 10, the cost centre expenditure income, and that's to note the income and expenditure to the end of October 2024. Received, Councillor Coughlin. All in favour?